Welcome to another podcast with Investing Education Academy. Today, we're going to talk about some of the marijuana stocks that we've talked about in the past. Some of you have invested in them. Some people haven't. Some people don't even know what the industry is all about. It's a lot of different things happening in the space, and we're going to talk about it today. But specifically, revisiting some stocks we looked at in the past. Now, Leon's going to tell you why we chose to do this while I do a little bit of housekeeping.
Yeah, so the reason we're touching on this again today, and so I think a month or two, either 2 to 3 months ago, we talked about this, right? And so the reason this is important is because, just to rehash, so the federal government has now or is soon going to reclassify marijuana from a stage 1 to a stage 3, which puts it on par with ketamine, testosterone, and I think what is it, aspirin with codeine or something?
Yeah, extra strength aspirin,
Yeah,
and also I think it's Mucinex D.
right. So basically, kind of like over-the-counter medications, what is going to be classified from the federal government. Now, it's not. This doesn't mean it's legal federally. It just means they're essentially what they're saying is they're not going to like clamp down, arrest you, throw you in jail, that whole craziness for the stance of the federal government. Now, the states are doing their own thing. I think like 25 some odd states, it's legal, with more coming on. Number will come on each year. And my view is that eventually it's going to be legal federally, but that's after the election and whomever wins. But the reason revisiting this is because I just want to go through kind of the numbers again. Well, let me take a step back and show you what's happened. So marijuana has been downgraded from stage 1 to stage 3, meaning again that the federal government is looking at it as quasi-legal. The reason that's important is because this allows for the companies to establish dispensaries, and if, for lack of a better term, just not be looked down upon by society as a whole. The next step, I believe, will be some sort, and this actually moved through Congress to some extent, is federal regulations around banking. Because right now, marijuana companies based in the U.S. cannot bank with banks. Right, a lot of their money is kept literally under the mattress, in their stores, in vaults, but they cannot bank legally. Now that like I said, there's some bills in Congress to kind of rectify that. Again, after the election, I think we'll see a lot of movement.
Also, Leon, let me just jump in.
Mm-hmm.
This will open them up to federal funding, loans, things that they can't get, which will help with their growth. So you think about some of these companies have to come in pretty much with a cash position, or take out personal loans to fund them because they weren't able to get federal funding. This law possibly, happening late this year, early next year, some point in the future, reasonably near future, it will change regulatorily speaking, which also is going to affect them how they financially manage these companies. That's going to affect how they can hire these companies. Also, what we're not talking about is the fact that they can't advertise. Certain like companies, dispensaries can't advertise on media outlets that may be mainstream because of the federal or lack of federal support behind them right now. So when they're able to market, that also creates a new lane of exposure. Just it has a waterfall effect. Just understand it's not just a linear thing like, oh, they got approval, everything stays the same. That is not what's going to happen.
Yep. So once the banking thing goes through, and I think that'll possibly come before actual legalization. So okay, that's what's going on in the industry. Marijuana is essentially, and the way I look at it is effectively the government has kind of given the public the green light to use marijuana. Again, it's legal in some states, but the feds are just like, we're hands off right now. Yeah. So what happened so this happened around the news came out that this is really moving forward around March. So I was going to go through some numbers with you to show you how this thing has played out. So and I'm use so there's a marijuana ETF, ticker symbol is MJ. So that's going to be kind of our benchmark for this kind of part of this discussion.
And if any of you all were with us, I would say in roughly 2021, we had one of our hot seats where we looked at MJ, and that thing was skyrocketing. And if you were with us in 2020, that was early 2021. I want to say like December 2021. that thing almost fell through the floor, and we talked about it again. So this, if you want to revisit our podcast and pull that, you can go to IEApodcast.com and pull that podcast and then listen to this one right after it. It'll be fun to do.
Yeah, we were on MJ back when it was flying high. But so MJ is an ETF that tracks the industry, right? So since I'm just gonna go through some stats. So since November, so the stock market as a whole quote unquote bottom, the near-term bottom in November of last year. So that's kind of like the pivot point we're gonna discuss. So MJ, since that November low last year, November 2023, MJ, the ETF, marijuana ETF, is up 63%. And just since March of this year, MJ is up 43%. Right now, think about those numbers. Keep those in the back of your mind. That's an ETF that tracks the industry. So inside the ETF, there are a basket of there are a number of different marijuana stocks inside that. Now, individually, I'm going to talk about a company named Canopy Growth. It's one of the leading cannabis marijuana stocks in the U.S. and I think it may be Canada too. So just kind of this year, since March of this year, that stock is up 263% since March of this year. So we're talking 2 months. Now the crazy thing is the stock was up 434% the end of last month. So basically what I'm saying is that these stocks are now pulling back, right? They ran to the roof once the news came out that the government was now moving forward with this whole reclassification thing. They shot up. Now they pull back. Now, you're talking 200, it's still up 263%. Could have pulled back more? Absolutely. But because of I'm kind of thinking about a bit of like a floor underneath these stocks because they've gotten quasi federal, not to say legalization, but kind of like the green light from the federal government. I doubt, now anything's possible, but I doubt these things will go back to where they were, near their lows. So I'm saying all that to say, if you have not looked at marijuana stocks, please do. This is like getting on the ground floor of alcohol back in the 30s. I mean, this is like it's almost like the bottom of where cannabis or marijuana stocks will likely bottom out in the near future, and then again, go higher from here. Especially as banking regulations loosen, and once the election happens, I know specifically Biden wins. His administration said they're going to move forward with legalization. Now if Trump wins, that's a toss up, but. So just take a look at marijuana stocks. They have pulled back tremendously from their recent high about a month ago. And we all know legalization is coming, right? There are 25 states, I think, in the US that have already legalized statewide. And 2 or 3 happen per year, if not more. And the federal government is talking about legalizing at some point too. So definitely a good time to look at these, revisit them again. Last point of comparison is that the S&P 500, since the low last November is only at 30%. Oh, and I say only because this is relative. I mean, 30% is still a great gain, but relative to marijuana stocks, it's only up 30% since last November, and since March of this year, the S&P 500 is only up 3%. Again, that's contrast. MJ last November is up 63%. Since March of this year, up 43%. Canopy Growth, just this year, just since March, is up 263%. And it was up 434% the end of last month. So
it's like 142% pullback.
And right. So, and I mean, these things are volatile, right? So I mean, we clearly see they're volatile. And if you're gonna take put some money into these, make sure it's a relatively low percentage of your portfolio. But this is an area that you want to get into because, like I said, this is kind of like the ground floor, the bottom floor of marijuana, and the movement of marijuana becoming legalized is moving a lot faster these days. So definitely revisit these.
All right. And when you're thinking about what you invest, please, this is not that situation. And we know some of you all are like fearful of various sectors. This is a speculative sector and this is a speculative investment. So what does that mean? Take heed to what Leon said. You should not be investing. I wouldn't go over like 3%, really. Mm-hmm. Maybe 4 or 5% of your overall portfolio into something like this, especially if it is foreign to you. If you are, one of those people who are like, I love some more interest, you should be in our conversations. You should be a member of Investing Education Academy. We don't always talk about it as probably much as some people do with their programs, but we have a community of people who talk about stocks. It's the IEA community. You can become a member going to IEAmembers.com and actually have these conversations. And why am I saying that? It's not really just to sell a membership. I mean, we would love to have you in our portfolio of members, but the reality is we do this because we really care. Like Leon and I are going to invest anyway. And when we first started Investing Education Academy, just to give you some history, it was during the height of COVID where people were like, the sky's falling. We don't know what's going to happen with the market. We just wanted to educate our community on, how to demystify stocks. Later on, it became cryptocurrency and private equity deals, just a number of things. You all should know this. We had a conversation with one of our members, and they legitimately, this person's a millionaire. They legitimately told us that if it weren't for some of the conversations we had, they essentially would have made a lot of decisions they would have regretted without like kind of having this checkpoint to say, you know what, maybe I'm panicking. Maybe right now isn't the time to just assume the sky's falling. I'm gonna stay the course. And in some cases they sold. And then they were like, okay, when's a good time to get back in? And we were able to have intelligent conversations around the stock market and how this person could invest, because not everybody invests the same way, but it saved them a lot of money. I would venture to say hundreds of thousands. Definitely. And these are things that make us feel really good. But then we also too know there's a whole subset of you all who are still watching us, and you don't really know how to get started. You can go to www.IEAmembers.com. Choose a membership platform. We have some that are $18 a month. We have others that are $5,000, soon to be $10,000 per year. And so you got to figure out what makes the most sense for you. And we have some things, I wouldn't even say in the middle, but there is one in the middle, but it's not in the middle of those two numbers. So, get started. Leon is 100% correct. This is like when prohibition just lifted. And now people are thinking, okay, what the difference is, even when prohibition lifted and people were able to sell alcohol, they still were selling it from private companies. The difference here is we can actually invest and get equity positions in these companies via stock. And that didn't happen back then. So, really, the margins on some of these companies are incredible. And before, with the marijuana industry, before it even got to this space, well, not before, but even as it's getting where it is now, Investing Education Academy has been buying into companies, not just buying stock, but buying actual positions in these companies, equity positions. So when they grow, and we believe they will, one of the companies we invest in, we're part owners of, they've already started breaking records in revenue. So just know there are other ways to play this in addition to what we're talking about today. And Leon is 100% correct. There is a pullback. This is a great time to investigate whether this makes sense for your particular portfolio. But I am saying this is probably an industry that most people aren't familiar with as it relates to investing. And this is when you want to be part of a community like Investing Education Academy. So we hope that you give it strong consideration.
Yep. So I'll just say last point is that, again, remember, these are relatively young companies, small companies. The market caps are not very big. A lot of times their revenues, relative to other industries may not be very big because, again, the whole legalization thing. But the legalization thing is moving in their favor. So again, you want to buy things when they're on sale or when they're cheap relative to where they can go in the future. So now is that time. And again, like Brent said, you don't have to put 10%, 20% of your portfolio. I would keep it under 3%. Just drop some money in there, kind of as Brent would say, curious money. Just maybe under $100, maybe a few $100. See how these things go. If you start seeing a pattern here, you start seeing good numbers coming out, good press, good legislation, maybe increase it. But it's something you definitely want to be exposed to, because in 10 years, I mean, I would venture to bet it's all going to be legal, and we could have bought in at the bottom. So just but like Brent said, it's about your position, your suitability. What are you comfortable with? How much can you invest? Can you do with the volatility? You have to assess it for yourself. We're just bringing it to your attention.
Yep. So everybody, we thank you for being with us. We owe you 2 stock picks which will be now put directly into our community. So you can go to IAmembers.com, log in. You can check to see what our 2 picks from today are, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a great day, everybody.